My name is Joanna Sinclair, and I'm 37. The night I came home with a termination letter folded at the bottom of my bag, my sister didn't ask me if I was all right. She asked who was going to pay her car note. My mother just nodded, as if that was a perfectly reasonable first question to ask. My dad went to my room, pulled a cardboard box from the closet, and started packing my things, right then and there, in front of our aunt and our next-door neighbor, who was sitting on our couch with a warm cup of tea in her hands. He said my sister needed the room more than I did. I stood in that hallway, carrying 15 years of mortgage payments, insurance premiums, and car notes in my name, and none of it mattered. What they didn't know, what none of them could possibly imagine, would have changed everything. But by the time they found out, I was long gone. Before I take you back to that night, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now, let me take you back to a Tuesday night in March, the night everything fell apart. The fluorescent lights in the Ashford and Graves conference room hummed like they always did. But that Tuesday, they just seemed louder. My manager sat across from me with an HR rep I'd never seen before. There was a file folder between them, my name printed on the tab. Corporate restructuring, he said. We're eliminating 40% of the analytics division. 12 years with that company. Not one bad performance review. I'd landed them 3 of their top 10 clients. None of that made it into the folder. I signed the papers and took the cardboard box they offered me. The irony of that box wouldn't hit me until later. I was out the door before noon. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 11 minutes. I counted every one. Then I called Greg Whitmore, my business partner. I got fired, I said. He didn't miss a beat. Then it's time, Joe. The firm is ready. The office in Austin is waiting for you. When's your flight? I should have said tomorrow. I should have said tonight. Instead, I told him, let me just get home first. Let me tell my family. Greg was quiet for a second. Joe, are you sure about that? I wasn't. But I drove to Carterville anyway. 45 minutes south on I-75, past the Walmart, past the Baptist church, past the Sinclair mailbox at the end of the gravel drive, the very same mailbox my mortgage payments kept standing. When I pulled in, I counted the cars. My parents', Megan's, Aunt Patty's old Buick, and Mrs. Dawson's sedan from next door. 4 cars meant company, and company meant witnesses. I grabbed my bag and walked up to the porch, rehearsing how I'd tell them the news. Something calm, something that wouldn't make them worry. I never got the chance. The screen door hadn't even swung shut behind me when Megan's voice drifted from the living room. So, is it true? You got fired? She was sitting cross-legged in the recliner, phone in hand, looking at me the way you'd look at a car wreck. Curious, not concerned. Laid off, I corrected. It's different. Whatever. Megan turned to our mom. See, Mom? I told you. Who's going to pay for my car now? My mother, Linda Sinclair, sat on the couch beside Aunt Patty, a plate of lemon bars between them. Mrs. Dawson, our neighbor, was in the armchair by the window. 3 women, 3 witnesses, and not a single one of them blinked at what Megan had just said. My mother set down her teacup. Joanna, sit down. We need to talk. Her tone wasn't concerned. It was businesslike, like she was leading a meeting about a budget shortfall, which, I guess she was. I was the budget shortfall. How did you already know? I asked. Megan just shrugged. Tyler's girlfriend is a receptionist at Ashford. She texted me this morning. So they'd known for hours. They sat in this living room, eating lemon bars and talking about me getting fired before I'd even finished clearing out my desk. I looked over at Aunt Patty. She was staring into her teacup. Mrs. Dawson was doing that thing where she pretended to be reading something on her phone. Joanna, my mother said again. Sit. I sat. Megan leaned forward. You could have at least given us a heads up. I've got a payment due on Friday. I almost laughed. Almost. The absurdity of it was so complete, so perfectly crafted it felt rehearsed. But Megan never rehearsed anything. She just said whatever she needed to in the moment. Let me back up, because that living room didn't just happen overnight. I graduated from the University of Georgia at 22 with a finance degree and a job offer from Ashford and Graves. My start date was 3 weeks after graduation. My grandmother, Ruth Sinclair, she's 83 now and sharp as a tax audit, drove 2 hours just to watch me walk across that stage. She's the one who pinned the tassel on my cap. You're gonna do just fine, Joanna, she told me. Help your family when you can, she said. But remember, helping and being used are two very different animals, and I remembered that for a while. It started small, $500 a month into my parents' account. Groceries. The power bill Megan left behind when she dropped out of community college. I was 23, and it felt good. Honestly, it gave me a sense of purpose. Then my dad, Ray, was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He was 51, working full-time down at the lumber mill. His work insurance covered the essentials until the mill cut his hours to part-time when he was 57. Just like that, his coverage was gone. I was 29. I picked up the premium $780 a month. By the time he was 32, he was struggling with the mortgage. My mother wasn't working. Megan wasn't working. Or she'd work for a little while, between long stretches of doing nothing. I took over the mortgage, $2,400 a month. I set it to autopay, just like everything else. I did the math once. In 15 years, I had sent home roughly $340,000. I never put it on a spreadsheet, never printed a receipt. I didn't need a thank you. But I thought, at the very least, they knew. I thought they understood what it meant. They didn't. 2 years before I was laid off, my mother called me about a car. Megan wanted a new $38,000 SUV. She had zero savings, no steady income, and a credit score so bad she couldn't get a library card. My mother's solution, however, was simple. I was to co-sign the loan. No, I said. Megan needs to build her own credit. I'll help with the down payment, but I am not co-signing. That was followed by 2 weeks of complete silence. No calls, no texts, nothing from my mother, nothing from my father, just a passive-aggressive Facebook post from Megan saying, "Some people forget where they came from the second they think they're better than everyone else." Then Aunt Patty called. "Your mother's telling everyone at church that you've abandoned your sister." I gripped the phone, and I felt something I wasn't expecting. Shame. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because in my family, the words no and betrayal were basically the same thing. I co-signed the loan. The day I signed my name to that $650 a month car loan, I did one more thing. I called Greg Whitmore, a colleague I trusted, and said 4 words. Let's start our own firm. He'd been pitching the idea for a year, a boutique financial advisory, small business clients, a lean operation. We filed the paperwork that week. Sinclair and Whitmore Financial Advisory. My name was first because Greg insisted. He said, "You're the engine, Joe. I'm just the GPS." I didn't tell my family. Not because I was hiding it, but because nobody ever asked what I did with my nights. Nobody asked why I was on a conference call at 10 p.m. Nobody asked me any question that didn't have a dollar sign attached. So, the business grew in the shadows. By the time Ashford laid me off, Sinclair Whitmore was 2 years old. We had 4 employees, a small office on East 6th Street in Austin, and a client list I'd built one handshake at a time. First year revenue, $10,000. Second year, $340,000. It wasn't a fortune, not front-page news, but it was real money from real work. We did forecasting, tax strategy, and restructuring plans for family-owned restaurants, car repair shops, and small construction firms that couldn't afford the big guys. I kept my day job because it gave me health insurance and because I was conditioned to play it safe. But the truth was, Sinclair Whitmore could support me. The numbers were solid, and that's the part that still stings. I had a plan. In 6 months, once the firm hit its next revenue target, I was going to quit Ashford on my own terms. I'd moved to Austin full-time, and before I left Georgia, I was going to pay off my parents' mortgage completely. One single check. A goodbye gift they would never have to repay. I had even written the letter to go with it. It said, "This is for the house. Please take care of each other." That letter sat in a folder on my desktop labeled, "Someday." I wrote them off the night my father packed my things. My mother never asked what I did after work. My father never asked if I was happy. Megan only asked questions that started with, "Can you?" and ended with a dollar amount. No one knew about the company because no one was looking. But that night, sitting in my parents' living room with lemon bars, judgment, and 4 cars in the driveway, none of it mattered yet. The worst was still to come. My mother folded her hands. She did that when she'd already made a decision and wanted to make it sound like a discussion. "Joanna, here's the situation. Megan needs a proper room. She's been sleeping on the downstairs pullout for months. You're almost never home. You work late. You travel. It just makes more sense for Megan to take your room. You want me to leave? I asked. I want you to think about your sister. She paused, adjusting her tone like she always did when she wanted the sentence to land softer than it was. You had a job. I mean, you had a job. Now you'll have to find another place anyway, so it's practical. Megan pulled her legs up onto the armchair. You don't have kids. You don't have a husband. You're flexible. I looked over at Aunt Patty. She was pressing her thumb into the arm of the sofa, staring at a spot on the carpet. Mrs. Dosen had stopped pretending to look at her phone and was just sitting there motionless, the way people do when they know they're witnessing something they'll talk about later. When did you two decide this? I asked my mother. She didn't answer. Mom, when? This morning. This morning, while I was still at my desk at Ashford, cleaning out 12 years of my work, my mother was rearranging her home to erase me from it. I went into your room this afternoon, she went on, almost casually. I moved a few boxes into the garage, just to get started. I stood up, walked down the hall, and opened my bedroom door. Half the bookshelf was empty. The framed photo of my graduation, the only picture of me on any wall in that house, was gone. The nail was still there. They hadn't even waited. I heard footsteps behind me. My father, Ray Sinclair, was 64, 6'1", and possessed the kind of silence people mistook for calm. It wasn't calm. It was avoidance pressed into the shape of a man. He walked past me into the room carrying a flat cardboard box. He opened it, put it on the bed, and started placing my things inside. Folded shirts, a jewelry box from Grandma Ruth, a coffee mug from my first day at Ashford. Dad didn't look up. Dad, look at me. His hand stopped, but his eyes stayed fixed on the box. Your sister needs this house more than you do, Joanna. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet. You always land on your feet. 6 words. And in those 6 words was the entire architecture of how my family saw me. Joanna pays the mortgage. She'll be fine. Joanna covers the insurance. She'll be fine. Joanna co-signs the loan. She'll be fine. Joanna gets fired and kicked out on the same day. She'll be fine. She always lands on her feet. I looked in the box. On top of my folded clothes was the graduation photo, frame, and all. My mother must have taken it down that morning while she knew, while I knew nothing, while I was still employed and still paying and still landing on my feet. From the hall, I heard Megan open a browser tab on her phone. She was already shopping for curtains. I grabbed the box, then the second one, already packed by the door. I carried them out to the car, one on each arm, past the living room where my mother sat with her hands still folded, past Aunt Patty, who half rose from the sofa like she wanted to say something, but sat back down when my mother looked at her. Nobody followed me out. The gravel in the driveway crunched under the tires, the way it always had. I'd heard that sound 1,000 times. Coming home from school, from college, after 12-hour days at a desk that had earned me nothing in that house but the right to keep on paying, I drove for 11 miles before pulling into a Chevron station parking lot on Highway 41. Engine on, hands on the wheel. I sat there for 10 minutes. It wasn't about getting fired. Losing a job stings, but I have a resume and a contact list and a company with my name on the door. I could fix that part by morning. It was the photo, that bare nail in the wall where my graduation picture had been. My mother took it down before I even knew I'd been fired, which means she looked at my face in that frame, decided I was gone, and pulled out the nail. 15 years, $340,000, and they had erased me from the walls in an afternoon. I called Greg. The Austin office, I said. Is there a spot for me? I've had a desk with your name on it for 6 months. I was just waiting. I'll get a hotel tonight. I'll book a flight in the morning. I'll pick you up at the airport. Joe, are you okay? I told him I was fine because that's what I do. After I hung up, I cried. Not loudly, not dramatically, just sitting in a gas station parking lot in rural Georgia with 2 cardboard boxes on the back seat and no home behind me. I cried because I had just realized that in 15 years of sending money, no one in that house had considered me worth keeping. Less than an hour after I left, Megan was hanging new curtains in my room. I found that out later from Aunt Patty. Austin in March smelled like cedar, fresh rain, and something I couldn't identify for the first 3 days. On the 4th day, I realized what it was. Absence. The absence of obligation. Greg picked me up from the airport on a Wednesday morning. By Thursday, I had a key to the office on East 6th, a converted warehouse with exposed brick, 4 desks, and a whiteboard covered in Greg's handwriting. Our team: Lisa, Marcus, Devin, and Priya. 4 people I'd hired over late-night Zoom calls. Sitting in a bedroom my family was already planning to give away. "Welcome to headquarters," Greg said. He taped a paper sign above a desk. J. Sinclair, co-founder. I found a studio apartment 3 blocks from the office. 590 square feet, white walls, and a window that looked out onto an oak tree. I signed the lease that same day and slept on an air mattress that night with the window open. The next morning, I sat at my desk and did something I hadn't done in 15 years. I opened my bank account and looked at the balance without subtracting someone else's expenses. The automatic debits were still active. Mortgage, $2,400. Dad's insurance, $780. Megan's car, $650. Every month, $3,830 was leaving my account and landing in a life that had just told me to leave. Greg leaned in the doorway. "You're still paying them, aren't you?" I didn't answer. "Joe, they packed your boxes for you." "I know. So why did I minimize the screen?" Because saying it out loud, admitting I was still hoping someone would call to apologize, felt worse than just continuing to pay. No one called. 14 days. I counted them like you count stitches after a surgery. Each one pulls, each one holding something closed that wants to break open. No call from my mother, no text from my father, no voicemail from Megan asking where I was, if I had eaten, if I had a roof over my head. On day 11, I made the mistake of opening the family chat. Megan had posted a photo: my old room, repainted powder pink, new curtains, a vanity with a ring light. The caption: "Finally, my own space." My mother commented, "Beautiful, sweetie." I scrolled back. 14 days of messages about Megan's room makeover, a slow cooker chili recipe Linda found, and a picture of my dad's new tomatoes. 14 days of a family carrying on as if a limb hadn't just been amputated. I put my phone face down on the desk. That night, I opened the banking app. The automatic payment screen lit up. 3 items, 3 lifelines running from my account to a house that had scraped my name off its walls. Greg had gone home. The office was dark, except for my laptop. I sat there with the cursor hovering over cancel recurring payment. I didn't click. Not yet. I told myself I was being strategic, that cutting off the money without warning would be reckless, that I needed a plan, that a finance professional doesn't make impulsive decisions. But it was a lie. I didn't cancel because some stupid, stubborn part of me was still checking my phone at midnight, waiting for a notification that said mom or dad and started with, "We're sorry." The notification never came. The automatic debits kept running. For now. Day 16. My phone lit up. Megan. A jolt of something hope, maybe, or its cheap cousin. Reflex shot through my chest before I could stop it. I answered. "Hey," Megan said, as casual as if calling a restaurant to place an order. "So, the car insurance is due next week. Can you handle that?" "No, hello, how are you?" "No, where are you?" "No, are you alive?" "Also," she continued, "Mom says the water heater broke. She needs about $2,000. I let the silence settle for 3 seconds. Megan hated silence. She filled it. "Hello? Joanna? You there? Megan? Do you know where I am right now?" "I don't know, Nashville, wherever." "Can you just send the money?" "I'm in Austin, Texas. I've been here for 2 weeks." Silence. "Okay, cool. So about the insurance." I hung up. I set the phone on my desk and just stared at it like it might bite me. 16 days. The first words my family had for me were a dollar amount. That was the moment. Not the layoff, not the boxes, not my dad's hands folding my shirts. It was this Megan, calling from the room she'd stolen from me, demanding I pay for a car I never wanted to co-sign for, without knowing or caring that I'd moved to another state. I opened my laptop, created a new document, and did the thing I should have done years ago. I wrote a professional email, the kind I'd use with a client to close a contract. Clear terms, firm dates, no emotion, no blame. 30 days notice. Greg always told me I'd recognize the moment when it arrived. He was right. It didn't arrive with a bang, it arrived with Megan saying, "Okay, cool, so about the insurance." I wrote the email at 11:01 on a Tuesday night. The office was silent. Austin traffic hummed 2 stories below. I sent it to all 3 of them. Linda, Ray, Megan. Because clarity doesn't work in whispers. Subject: Financial transition, 30-day notice. The body of the message was 4 paragraphs. No history, no pain, just structure. Effective May 1st, I will discontinue the following monthly payments. Mortgage for 14 Berkeleyan, Carterville, $2,400. Health insurance premium for Ray Sinclair, $780. Car loan for the vehicle in Megan Sinclair's name, $650. These payments have been maintained at my personal expense for periods ranging from 2 to 8 years. This email constitutes formal 30-day notice of termination. For Dad's insurance, I will extend coverage payments for an additional 60 days past May 1st to allow adequate time for enrollment in a marketplace plan or Medicaid. I am happy to provide guidance on the enrollment process. This is not a punishment, it is a transition. I am giving you 30 days to arrange alternative financial plans. I signed it with my full name, not Love, not your daughter. Just Joanna Sinclair. Greg was still awake. I forwarded it to him before hitting send. His reply came back in 2 minutes. Professional, clean, no weak spots. Send it. I hovered my cursor over the button at 11:47 p.m. 15 years of checks, wire transfers, auto debits, silence, and lemon squares. 15 years of being the line item on a budget nobody read, but everyone depended on. All of it was behind a single click. I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, walked back to my apartment, and slept for 7 uninterrupted hours for the first time in months. I knew the storm would hit in the morning, but that night, the silence was mine. 7 a.m. I woke up to a screen full of rubble. 14 missed calls from my mother, 6 from Megan, 2 from my dad. A cascade of texts, stacked like bricks. Linda, 6:02. Joanna Marie Sinclair, call me immediately. Linda, 6:11. You can't do this to your family. Linda, 6:34. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. Megan, 6:08. What the hell, Joanna? Megan, 6:15. You can't just cut me off. It's my car. Megan, 6:22. Mom is literally crying right now. Are you happy? Ray, 6:41. Call your mother. I read every message, then put the phone down and made coffee. Here's what I noticed. 14 missed calls, 26 messages, and not one started with, "Are you okay?" Nobody said, "We miss you." Nobody acknowledged I'd been gone for over 2 weeks, and nobody had bothered to check. When I stopped paying, they noticed in 7 hours. When I stopped existing under their roof, they didn't notice for 16 days. I didn't answer. I saved the messages, not as evidence for a court or social media. I saved them as a reminder. For the next time that stubborn voice in my head whispered, maybe they've changed. At noon, the phone rang again. Aunt Patty. I answered. Joanna. Honey, are you okay? 5 words. And she was the first person in my family to say them. Your mother is calling everyone, telling people you've abandoned the family. A pause. But I was there that night, Joanna. I saw what happened, and I should have said something. I didn't. I'm sorry. That cracked me more than anything Megan or my mother had thrown at me. Patty told me the things I couldn't see from Austin. Your mother is telling the ladies at church that you've cut the family off because you're resentful about losing your job. She's using words like selfish and ungrateful. She actually said, after all we've done for her. And what had they done for me? Patty was silent. I know. Megan had posted on Facebook no names, but obvious enough. When your own sister puts money before family. 37 likes, 12 comments, all supportive. I didn't look. Patty continued. Your mother is panicking about the mortgage. Didn't she know it was $2,400 a month? She thought it was $800. She's never looked at a statement. No, she never had to. You made sure of that. And Dad is just sitting on the porch, not saying much. I think he knows he messed up, Joanna, but your father hasn't admitted he was wrong about anything in 64 years. He gets it from his father. I almost smiled. Almost. Then Patty said something that tightened my chest. Megan quit her job last week. The one at the salon, the only one she had, said the commute was too long. Your mom is putting groceries on a credit card now. I thanked Patty. I didn't ask her to intervene, didn't ask her to pass any messages. She had already given me the one thing no one else had. Honesty. Before hanging up, she said, "That night, when you were carrying out those boxes, I stood up. I was going to say something. Your mother gave me a look, and I sat back down. It's been bothering me ever since." I know, Patty. The weeks after the email were the hardest and the clearest of my life. Hard, because grief doesn't care about bank statements. Clear, because for the first time in 15 years, my calendar belonged to me. Sinclair Whitmore signed a new client, a family-owned Tex-Mex chain, with 11 locations in Central Texas. They needed a complete turnaround plan. It was the biggest contract we'd ever landed, and it was mine to lead. I worked 12-hour days, not because I was running from something, though I won't pretend the work didn't help fill the silence, but because I had spent years giving my best hours to someone else's company and my best money to people who packed it in boxes. This was different. Every spreadsheet I built, every proposal I drafted, every client call I handled it came back to me. Greg and I started planning our expansion. 3 new hires, a bigger office in the warehouse district. He wanted to throw a launch party, invite clients, partners, a few local business reporters. Make it official. "You in?" he asked. "I'm in." "But no family?" "Got it." That Saturday night, I called Grandma Ruth at Sycamore Ridge, the retirement home outside Atlanta. She knew nothing about all this. I told her the short version, the layoff, the eviction, the move. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was silent for a long time. Then, I knew this day would come. I just hoped it wouldn't have to. "Grandma, I started a company. We're opening a new office next month. Joanna, I want to be there." My throat closed up. "You'll be in the front row. I'll need someone to get me. Ask that partner of yours. Greg will pick you up himself." "Good. Tell him to drive slow. I'm 84 years old." May 1st arrived the way deadlines do, quietly for the one who said it, loudly for everyone else. That morning, for the first time in 5 years, no payment left my account for 14 Birch Lane, Carterville, Georgia. The automatic draft was canceled. The money stayed where it was. I was in a client meeting when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. It buzzed again at lunch and again at 2 p.m. By 4 p.m., I had 9 missed calls from my mother. I listened to one voicemail. Her voice was different, not angry. It was thin, cautious. "Joanna, a letter came from the bank. The mortgage payment didn't go through. They're saying it's late. Did you forget to pay?" I called her back at 6 p.m., sitting in my office with the door closed. "Mom, I sent an email 30 days ago. Did you read that email? I thought you were just angry. I thought you'd cool down." I was calm when I wrote it. "I'm calm now. The payments have stopped. Joanna, you can't. You have 30 days to contact the bank and discuss restructuring options. I will send you a guide on what to ask." Silence. Then my mother's voice broke. Not the theatrical crack she used for Megan's sympathy, but something rawer, smaller. "This is our home, Joanna." I closed my eyes. "It's the home I paid for 5 years, and the one you asked me to leave." She hung up. I expected to feel something sharp, guilt, maybe, or satisfaction. What I felt was flat, like finishing a tax return. The numbers were correct. The form was filed. There was nothing left to calculate. That evening, for the first time, my father called me directly. He called at 10 p.m. Central. I was on the couch in my apartment, reading a client prospectus. The screen lit up. "Model." "Dad!" I put the prospectus down. "Joanna," he started, then a long, heavy pause. "I don't know what to say. You could start with, 'I'm sorry.'" Another pause. I heard him exhale, slow and heavy, like when his blood sugar was out of whack. "I'm not good at these things, Joanna. Your mother said it was for the best that night. I believed her. She packed my things in boxes, Dad. In front of Aunt Patty, in front of Mrs. Dosen. Did you really think that was for the best? For me?" Silence. "Dad?" "No," he said. "No, I didn't." The line went so quiet I could hear a TV in the background. Some game show. Megan was probably in my old room, door shut, the new curtains pulled tight. "I need help with the mortgage," he said. "I'm only working part-time. Your email mentioned another 60 days, but after that, I don't know." I said, "I sent a guide for the healthcare marketplace to your email. Patty can help you with it. You'll qualify for subsidies. Dad, I will answer procedural questions." "I'm not sending money," I said. He breathed out again. "Your mother says you're punishing us." "I'm not punishing anyone. I'm living the life I should have started a long time ago. The silence stretched between Georgia and Texas, like a wire pulled taut. I know I was wrong that night. I just don't know how to fix it. That was the closest Ray Sinclair had ever come to an apology. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Good night, Dad. Good night, Joanna. I hung up. My apartment was silent, and that silence was all mine. I want to pause here for a moment. When my father said, I know I was wrong, a part of me, the one that still remembers him teaching me to ride a bike at 6 years old, wanted to scream, then come fix it. But I've learned that knowing you were wrong and choosing to do something about it are two completely different things. If you're watching this and you've ever waited for an apology that almost arrived but never fully landed, I get it. Leave a comment below. Did you wait around or did you walk away? And if this story resonates with you, please subscribe. I'm about to get to the part where everything changes. 6 weeks after that email, it was mid-June, and the Texas heat pressed against the office windows like a heavy hand. The phone rang. It was Megan, and this time she was really crying. Real sobs, not the decorative ones she used at family dinners. Joanna, they're taking my car. The bank sent a repossession notice. You co-signed for me. Is it going to ruin your credit, too? I had been expecting this call for 3 weeks. I was already prepared. I've spoken to the bank, I told her. My lawyer filed for a release of liability for borrower default. My name will be off the loan in 10 business days. Do you have a lawyer? It's your loan now, Megan. You have 15 days to catch up or surrender the car. You're ruining my life. I paused. No, I said quietly. I'm stopping you from ruining mine. She hung up. 10 minutes later, my mother called. I sent it to voicemail. Your sister is sobbing right now. Do you even have a heart, Joanna? I put my phone on silent and got back to the Text Me Max restructuring file. Margins, labor costs, rent renegotiations, numbers that made sense, numbers that didn't scream. 2 weeks later, Patty called to tell me the car was gone. It was repossessed from the driveway on a Thursday afternoon while Megan was inside watching TV. A tow truck, a clipboard, and $38,000 of misplaced entitlement rolling away down Birch Lane. Now, Megan had to get rides from our mother to the supermarket and to the rare job interview she actually agreed to attend. It was the first time in her life she couldn't just escape a situation by simply turning a key. Then, something arrived in my mailbox I wasn't expecting. It wasn't a bill or a threat. It was a handwritten letter from my Grandma Ruth. The envelope was thin, a single sheet of paper folded into thirds. Her handwriting was shaky from the tremor she'd developed, but the words themselves were steady. Joanna, I've heard all about it. I'm not surprised. Sad, yes, but not surprised. I've seen Linda favor Megan since that girl was 5 years old. I told her more than once that she was building a house on one daughter's back just to furnish it for the other. She didn't listen. She never does. You did the right thing. Helping without boundaries isn't generosity, Joanna. It's servitude, and you have served your time. I want to come to your grand opening, if you'll have me. You tell that Greg to drive carefully. I didn't survive for 84 years just to get taken out on a Texas highway. Love, Grandma Ruth. I read it twice at my desk, and then a third time. I put it down when the words started to blur. In 2 months, exactly one person in my family told me I did the right thing. One. An 84-year-old woman in an assisted living facility who could barely hold a pen. I called her that night. Grandma, please come. Greg will pick you up personally. Front row. I'd like a seat on the aisle, she replied. These old knees don't bend like they used to. I laughed. It was my first real laugh in weeks. Before we hung up, she told me one more thing. Linda called last week. Said you betrayed the family. I told her the only person betrayed in this story is you. She hung up on me. I said, she hung up on you. She does that when she hears something she can't argue with. You got your stubborn streak from her, Joanna, but that backbone? That you got from me. The grand opening was set for the last Saturday in June. Greg sent out invites via email and LinkedIn to clients, local entrepreneurs, a journalist from the Austin Business Journal, and a few finance colleagues who'd been watching our growth. One of them was Karen Webb. Karen and I had worked together briefly at Ashford years before. She had stayed in Nashville, but followed my career from a distance, sort of peripherally, until something interesting happened. Karen got the invitation and did what Karen always does. She shared a quick post in her church women's group chat, the very same group my mother was in. Joanna Sinclair is launching her own financial firm in Austin. Grand opening this month. So proud of her. It took 4 hours. 4 hours for the message to travel from Karen's phone to the group chat and onto my mother, Linda Sinclair's, screen. Patty called me that evening. Your mother's seen it. Seen what? I asked. Karen posted about your new business. Your mom read it at the kitchen table. I've never seen her face do that before. Do what? Go white? Then red? Then just still. Linda called Megan into the kitchen. Did you know your sister has a business? Megan had no idea. Linda called me. I didn't answer. She called again, then called Patty. Why does Joanna have a business and nobody told me about it? And Patty and I will love her for this, replied. Maybe because nobody ever asked her. That evening, according to Patty, Linda said just 4 words to my father over dinner. 4 words that told me everything I needed to know about what was coming next. We're going to Austin. I had no idea they were coming. I found out in the worst possible way. My new office was stunning. I'm going to say that out loud because I've spent way too many years downplaying things I earned. 2,800 square feet in a converted warehouse on West 4th Street. Exposed brick, soaring windows, 8 desks, a glass-walled conference room, and above the main entrance, in clean charcoal letters, Sinclair and Whitmore Financial Advisory. Greg outdid himself with the event. 52 guests milled about with wine and sparkling water, and those amazing bruschetta from that Italian place on South Congress. We had string lights across the ceiling and a sound system playing low jazz. And Grandma Ruth was in the front row, in her wheelchair, wearing the pearl earrings she saved for worthy occasions. She had told Greg on the drive from the airport, if there's no aisle seat, just put me right up front. I didn't fly all the way to Texas just to stare at the back of people's heads. I stepped up to the podium at 7:30 p.m., wearing a gray blazer, my hair pulled back, my hands steady. 2 years ago, I started this company at a kitchen table with 1 partner and 1 client. Tonight, we're standing in a real office with real clients and a very real future. I want to thank Greg Whitmore, who believed in this even before I did. I want to thank our team Lisa, Marcus, Devin, Priya, and our 3 newest hires and, of course, our clients for trusting us with their finances and their families' futures. Then I looked right at Ruth. And I want to thank my grandmother, Ruth Sinclair. You taught me that generosity is a strength, but knowing when to stop is wisdom. Ruth gave a little wave, and the room applauded. 40 minutes later, I was shaking hands with a restaurant owner from San Marcos when my Aunt Patty appeared at the entrance. She had come without telling me. She crossed the room and wrapped me in a tight hug. I've owed you this since that night, she whispered. I was getting a glass of water when the front door opened and the energy in the room changed, like the air does just before a storm. That drop in pressure you feel in your teeth. Linda entered first, hair done up, in her Sunday dress. Megan trailed behind her in jeans and a jacket she'd obviously borrowed from someone. I recognized Patty's jacket. And behind them, my father, hesitating at the threshold, as if he wasn't sure the floor would hold. My mother's eyes swept across the room, taking in the logo, the desks, the boardroom, the crowd. 50 people knew my name, but none of them knew hers. She came right for me, ignoring Ruth, ignoring Patty. Gianna, why hide all this? I put my glass down. Mom, you cleared out my room before I was even home. You packed up my life. Didn't call me for 2 weeks. And now you're asking why I didn't share this with you? The chatter around us stopped. A client from Dripping Springs lowered his wine glass. Lisa, our office manager, glanced at Greg. Greg just looked at me. He didn't move, just stood close enough for me to see him. Then Megan stepped forward. So, you had money this whole time, and you just let them repossess my car. The car I co-signed for. The car I asked you to take care of 2 years ago. The car you drove to your new room, my old room. The night you never even asked if I had a place to sleep. The jazz music kept playing. No one touched their drinks. From her wheelchair, Ruth's voice cut through the room clear and steady. The voice of a woman who'd spent 84 years learning when to speak and when to stay quiet. Linda, you don't belong here. Leave. My mother's face went white. My mother started to cry, but this wasn't her living room in Carterville, and these weren't her neighbors. Nobody offered a tissue. Nobody patted her on the back. I sacrificed everything for this family. Mom, my voice was flat, the same tone I use when the numbers are bad and clients have to hear it. I paid your mortgage for 5 years. I paid Dad's insurance for 8 years. And I paid for Megan's car for 2 years. None of that was your sacrifice. It was mine. And you repaid me by packing my life into boxes the night I lost my job. The room was dead silent. I could hear the ice shifting in someone's glass. Megan tried again. This is so unfair. Are you trying to embarrass us? I'm not embarrassing anyone. I am stating facts. In my office, at my event, I held her gaze until she was the one to look away. Then my father stepped forward, past my mother, past Megan. He stopped in front of me, hands at his sides. His shoulders slumped lower than I had ever seen them. Joanna. His voice was thick. I'm sorry. Just 2 words. No qualifications, no buts, no, your mother said. I looked at this man who'd spent 64 years dodging every hard conversation, who would rather fold my shirts into a box than swallow his own pride, and I saw something I'd never seen before. He was ashamed. Thanks, Dad, I said. That's the first honest thing anyone in this family has said to me in 2 months. I turned to face my mother and sister. I think you need to leave. This is a professional event. Greg opened the door. Linda and Megan walked out without a word. My father hesitated a second, glanced at the sign above my desk, then followed them. The last guests left by 9 p.m. Greg locked the door. The caterers packed up the bruschetta trays. The string lights still hung from the ceiling, like punctuation marks at the end of a sentence I'd been trying to finish for 15 years. Ruth and I sat in the empty office. Her wheelchair was parked next to my desk. Patty had gone back to her hotel, promising to return in the morning. Ruth took my hand. Her skin was thin, but her grip was strong. I'm proud of you, she said. Not for this. She gestured to the room. Because you stopped yourself before it was too late. I wish I had stopped sooner. Well, start from here. I looked at the logo on the wall. The desks, the boardroom, Greg's awful handwriting still on the whiteboard from last week's strategy session. It was all real, all mine. Your mother, Ruth said carefully. She called me after she saw Karen's post. She told me you'd betrayed the family. I told her, the only person who was betrayed in this story is you. She hung up on me. I'm telling you again because you need to hear it twice. She squeezed my hand. Linda is my daughter, and I love her. But she built her world on your shoulders and got so comfortable she forgot you were holding her up. That's not love. That's furniture. I laughed, and it hurt and healed at the same time. Patty had mentioned one other thing before she slipped out. Linda told my father on the ride back to the hotel that she was calling a lawyer to see if she could force me to keep paying their mortgage. I just nodded. I wasn't worried. Generosity doesn't come with a court summons. The weeks after our grand opening unfolded the way gravity works, slowly, and then all at once. Patty kept me in the loop not because I asked, but because she couldn't be the family's silent observer anymore. The mortgage was 2 months late. The bank sent a 60-day notice. Linda and my father applied for a loan modification, but with only his part-time income and no second earner, the numbers just didn't work. The bank gave them 2 options: sell the house or rent out the upstairs rooms. They chose to find a tenant. In August, a grad student from Kent State moved in. Linda hated every single second of it. Megan's car was gone, repossessed, sold at auction, and she still owed money on it. Her credit score dropped below 500. Linda had to drive her everywhere, to the grocery store, to Goodwill to drop off resumes, and to the one interview she actually dressed up for. It was at a garden supply store 20 minutes from home. She didn't get the job, so she applied again the following week. She was hired on her second try. As for my father's insurance, the new marketplace plan cost more than what I used to pay, even with the subsidy. Patty helped him with the forms. He complained about the website, but filled every prescription on time. And then, there was Linda's reputation. Karen's post had done its quiet damage. The women from church knew. Not everything, but enough. Enough to ask Linda pointed questions she couldn't answer without lying. How's Joanna doing out in Austin? We heard she started her own business. You must be so proud of her. Linda just smiled through every single question. The lawyer she'd consulted told her there was no legal way to force an adult child to continue voluntary financial support. It's generosity, he told her, not a contract. Generosity isn't a contract. I could have told her that for free. She called on a Thursday in early August. I was walking back from a cafe on Rainy Street, a cold Americano sweating in my hand. I almost didn't answer. Joanna. Her voice was different, stripped down. This wasn't the Linda who presided over family meetings, or rallied the church group, or clasped her hands together before delivering a verdict. This was the Linda underneath all of that, smaller, tired, and for the first time I could remember, unsure of herself. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have made you leave, and I shouldn't have let Megan say those things. She paused. Megan was always around. She was home. You were always gone for work, always traveling. I chose the one who was close by. I was being selfish. I let her speak. She had earned that much, at least. I was scared of being alone. Joanna, your father hardly says a word. Megan was my companion, so I protected her. Even when she didn't deserve it. Even when it meant hurting you. You didn't just hurt me, Mom. You erased me. Silence. What can I do? She asked. Respect my decision. I am not paying your bills anymore. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity. If you want a relationship with me, start by seeing me as a person, not a paycheck. You're my daughter. Then treat me like one. I heard her catch her breath. Then the line went quiet. Not disconnected, just empty. The kind of space between two people who don't have the right words yet, but maybe, eventually, could. She said, okay, and then hung up. I stood on the sidewalk for a solid minute. I didn't feel angry or triumphant. I just felt something I hadn't expected. Clean. Like a window being forced open after being painted shut for years. 3 days after my mom's call, Megan sent me the longest text message she had ever written. And I knew it was the longest, because in 30 years as her sister, her texts had never been more than 2 lines. Gianna, I know I messed up. I know I should have asked how you were doing that night. I know the whole thing with the car was wrong. I just always figured you had everything together, and I was the one who was always struggling. Mom always said you were the strong one, and I was the one who needed help. I believed her. I'm sorry. I read it twice. There was truth in it. Not a lot, but a single thread. The kind of thread that, if pulled carefully, could unravel something worth trying to rebuild. Then I scrolled down. We can talk about the car situation. I really need. I stopped reading. There it was. The apology was a door, and behind it was a trap. Maybe she meant the first part. I think she did, but the second half proved Megan still couldn't separate I'm sorry from I need. I wrote back, Megan, I accept your apology for what you said. That took courage, but I won't discuss money with you again. If you need financial advice, I can recommend a professional. I love you, but I need space. She didn't reply. 2 weeks later, Patty told me something that made me gently put down my phone and just stare at the wall for a while. Megan had an interview at a garden center, her first real one in 3 years. She didn't get the job. Then she applied again and was hired on her second try. It was small, fragile, but it was hers. Maybe that thread of hope was worth something. It was late August. I was reviewing a quarterly projection when there was a knock on my office door. There's a man at reception, says his name is Sinclair. My chest did something involuntary. Show him in. He walked into my office the way he walked into everything slowly, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes scanning the room like he was taking inventory. He looked at the desks, the team photos on the wall, the whiteboard, the conference room. Then he saw the nameplate on my door. Co-founder, Joanna Sinclair. He stood in front of it for a long time. I didn't know you had a company, he said, still looking at the sign. I didn't know you paid our mortgage for 5 years. I didn't know your insurance kept me alive. He turned to me. I didn't know, because I didn't ask. That's my fault. He sat in the chair across from my desk. He looked older than 64. The flight had exhausted him. Or maybe it was everything that came before the flight. I'm not here to ask for money, he said. I just wanted to see it, what you built. Because I should have seen it a long time ago. His eyes welled up. Ray Sinclair, the man who didn't cry at his own mother's funeral, pressed his thumb and finger to the bridge of his nose and let his shoulders shake. I didn't hug him. I wasn't ready for that. But I poured a glass of water from the pitcher on my desk and sat down across from him. Dad, we can rebuild this, but we start from scratch. No money, no guilt trips, just honesty. He nodded. He didn't make a grand promise or swear he'd change. He just nodded. Sometimes that's enough to start, sometimes it isn't. But I was willing to find out. By September, the Texas heat had started to loosen its grip, and so had the tightness in my chest I'd carried since March. Sinclair and Whitmore had 8 employees. Our quarterly revenue was up 40%. We'd signed 2 more restaurants, a small construction company, and a group of dental practices looking to restructure their retirement plan. Real businesses with real families behind them. The kind of clients who send thank you cards after you save them $12,000 on a tax strategy. I kept every single card in my desk drawer. My apartment was an upgrade, now 2 rooms in the same neighborhood. I ran the trail at Lady Bird Lake on days when the humidity allowed it. Saturday nights I'd read on my balcony. Sunday mornings I'd call Grandma Ruth. Back in Carterville, the new normal had settled like dust after a demolition. The house on Burkane had a grad student renting the upstairs. Linda cooked dinner every night in a kitchen that wasn't entirely hers anymore. She and Ray were barely managing the smaller mortgage, but they were managing. Megan's apartment was a studio above a dry cleaner's on Main Street. She worked at the garden center 5 days a week. It wasn't a career, but it was a paycheck with her name on it, and she hadn't quit. My father and I spoke every 2 weeks, short, cautious calls. We talked about the weather in Austin, his tomato plants, a documentary he saw on PBS. We didn't talk about the night with the boxes. Not yet. But the calls kept happening, and that was something. My mother and I hadn't spoken since August. I didn't close the door on her. She just never opened it. One afternoon, Megan sent me a picture. No caption, no request. Just a photo of a tiny succulent she'd potted on her apartment balcony. I didn't reply, but I saved the picture. My Sunday call with Grandma Ruth ran longer than usual that week. She'd had a good day, walked the hall twice with her walker, beat her roommate Margaret at Scrabble, and had a slice of cake she described as tolerable, which for her is high praise. Are you happy, Joanna? I thought about it. Happy felt like the wrong word, too bright, too complete. I'm at peace, I said for the first time. Peace is the best kind of happy. Everything else is just extra. I wrote that down after we hung up. I taped it below my monitor, where I'd see it every morning before the email started. The next day, I did a small thing. I took Ruth's letter, the one in the shaky handwriting with the steady words, and I had it framed. Nothing fancy, just simple wood and glass. I hung it on the wall behind my desk, right next to the Sinclair and Whitmore logo. Greg noticed it. Your grandma? My grandma. He read it through the glass. She's right, you know, about the servitude thing. She was right about most things. That afternoon, I stood by the window and watched Austin do what Austin does. Traffic, music spilling from a bar down the street, a woman jogging with a golden retriever. No one out there knew my name. No one knew I used to be the family ATM. Nobody here was owed anything by me, and I owed nobody here a thing. Here, I was just Joanna, and that was enough. Monday morning, 8:15, I sat at my desk with a coffee and opened my laptop. 3 new client inquiries in my inbox, a calendar full of meetings. The Tex-Mex chain had just signed on for another year. Greg knocked on the doorframe. Ready for the week? Ready. And he was gone. I looked at the small collection of things on my desk. Ruth's framed letter, a team photo from opening day, a mug Greg gave me that said, co-founder, in plain black letters, and one other thing, a photo in a cheap little silver frame. Me at 22, cap and gown, tassel pinned, standing in front of the university sign. The same photo my mom took off the wall the morning she found out I'd been fired, the one my dad packed in a box without meeting my eyes. Now it sat on my desk, in my office, in a company with my name on the building. I didn't say anything that night. Not because I didn't have the words, but because I knew my silence would say everything they needed to hear. And in the end, it did. I don't hate my family, I want to be clear about that. I'm not sitting at my desk plotting their downfall or fantasizing about their apologies. I just don't carry their weight anymore. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. I hold the key. And holding that key isn't cruelty. It's the first kind thing I've ever done for myself. If you're the one paying bills no one thanks you for, if you're the one holding it all together while everyone else treats your effort like oxygen, invisible until it's gone, I want you to hear this. You have the right to stop. Stopping doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you're finally loving yourself as much as you've loved everyone else. And if that scares them, If they call you selfish or ungrateful, remember, they aren't mourning you. They're mourning the convenience of you. There is a difference. My name is Joanna Sinclair. I'm 37, and I run a company I built with my own hands. I sleep in an apartment I pay for with money that stays in my account. I talk to my father every 2 weeks. I saved a picture of my sister's plant, and I have finally stopped doing well for everyone else. Thank you for staying until the end. I'd love to hear your story. Have you ever been the person holding it all together while no one noticed? Or were you on the other side and only realized it when it was too late? Post your answer in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, if it reminded you that your boundaries aren't selfish but necessary, share it with someone who needs to hear that today. There are more stories like mine in the description below. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself first. No one else has Yob.